Hello everyone, happy weekend and welcome to this week's video. After I was done swatching my colors from my new watercolor set that I got from Rubens last week, I had quite a bit of colors still left on my palette and I didn't want them to go to waste. So I took out my sketchbook and just started putting down some backgrounds, not really being precious about it or with much intent. I just wanted to use up the colors that I had left over still. And as I was doing that, I noticed that the colors were changing, obviously, because they were getting less and less. And the last page had a really nice blue in it that I thought I maybe should try and recreate. It took me quite a few tries, and needless to say, I did not manage to match that color that I had. So that led me to now being left with a bunch of different backgrounds that I hopefully will be able to use to doodle on at a later point in time. So I picked the one that I felt was the one that spoke most to me, and that is this one here. Obviously, I didn't know it at the time, and I think I did a couple more after this one. And when it was all dried and ready to go, I decided that this one was the safest one to go with, because I'm still kind of feeling a little bit burned out from Christmas. Those shorts took it out of me, and I didn't think they would, but they did. And so I am not feeling super motivated at the moment. And so I just need to go easy on me for the next couple of weeks and just try my best to be creative but not be too hard on myself. If I've learned anything over the last couple of years being here on YouTube, it's that I cannot force myself to be creative. So if you are in that same position and for some reason you're feeling a little burnt out or not creative at all, this is your reminder not to be too harsh on yourself. Just give yourself grace. Try to do some things that are creative but without a lot of pressure. So I took out my Arches fine grain watercolor paper that I recently purchased, and I cut it in half. It is now a 5x7 size, and I taped this one down. I don't think I taped the other ones down that I did, but for this one I taped it down. And I just put a bunch of water on it, and then I took what I thought were the colors that I was left with at the end, but not as mixed together, obviously, because I just taken them straight out of the tubes. I am working on that video where I work in my sketchbook, so that will come out at some point. But it's a long one. I didn't want to cut it up because some of you like longer videos that they can relax to or, work alongside or just listen to what I have to say. So that one's going to be quite a long one, I have a feeling. So I was trying to keep the colors light, and I know that when I use a lot of water that the colors will lighten up as they dry, but I needed to mop up some of that water anyway, and by doing so I kind of took off some of that darker paint that I had put on, which is totally fine. What I'm looking for here is just different areas that I can use to then doodle on. And when I'm in a rut like this, it helps me have a background that has more going on in terms of different sections that I can then outline and, use for my doodles. So I knew right away that this background was probably going to be the best one for me to start up again. I decided to add some gold to it, and this is what I ended up with. And this is the dried background now that I can start to put my lines on. And I wasn't quite sure what I should do, and I was looking at some of my past paintings that I have done and try to draw some inspiration from those. Because the background had a lot going on, it was relatively easy to put those lines on. But at this point, I was still kind of wondering if I should really do the neurographic lines or if I should go a different route. But as you may have heard in the past, in previous videos, when I feel unsure or insecure about what the next step should be, I tend to go back to what I know and what I feel comfortable doing, and that is still rounding out those corners and edges and working in the neurographic way. I want to remind you all that this is not Neurographica. I am utilizing the lines and the rounding out of those corners for me to incorporate into my art and to get myself ready for the doodling process. I enjoy that process. It is very calming, whether I have the intention of using it as Neurographica or whether I just put it on my pages for fun. I tend to start with thinner lines. And yes, I know I can't erase it, but something about putting a bold marker onto my background still kind of scares me a little bit. And so by starting with a fine liner, I can feel a little bit more precious about the process and not like jump right in. I don't know what better word to use. But then once those lines are down and I feel good about them, I go back in and I go over them again with a thicker pen. Sometimes I even use a brush pen to make them nice and bold. But if I were to do this in the beginning, I probably wouldn't be able to see the whole composition, And so by putting down the thin lines first, I can then determine, okay, which one deserves a bolder line, which one can I leave as a thin line, where do I need to add more lines, what else does it need, and so on. I hope that makes sense. One of these days, I need to check and see if these fine liner pens come in different colors. I know that the micron pens come in different colors, but they're just a little bit too expensive for me. And then I have some jelly roll pens, but I don't like them for this kind of purpose. I'm not sure what it is. So anyway, the point is that the lines are a little bit stark on this light background, and I'm aware of it at this point, but I'm also very deep into the doodling process at this point, and so there is not much I want to or can change at the moment. And in the end, it turned out quite nice. I actually liked not having such a bold, dark background and have those lines more visible and let them dominate that space a little bit more this time around. So in the end, I really, really liked how it turned out. It's not something that I have done before, working with such light colors, and I really like it. Quick side note on this pen, this white pen here, it has been such a wonderful addition to my white pens, and I unfortunately cannot remember who suggested it to me. It was somebody in my comments, and I went out and ordered one, and it comes in a pack of 3. And I have been loving this white pen. It is not streaky, it performs just like paint. It is so wonderful to use. I have not had a bad day with this white pen. So if you all need a white pen, I have it listed along with everything else that I've been using in this video down in the description box below this video. So please go check it out. You will not be disappointed. I am still not a huge fan of this watercolor paper consistency and what it does to my fine liner pens, but I have it and I might as well use it up, and I am not using my good pens for this because I'm just too worried that it's gonna chew up my tips too much. Also, I have not quite figured out how to use these gold pens. They don't seem to work very well. I don't know. Maybe it's user error, but and it also maybe it might be, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be because the watercolor paper is really absorbent. That could have something to do with it, but it's, yeah, it keeps drying up on me, and then when I push the tip in, it releases a bunch of liquid that I then have to either use up or let dry on, a scrap paper. So now that I have a few focal points, the doodles start to flow and I start to get into a rhythm. And I'm surprised at myself for being able to fill this page at this point, and I am starting to have fun with it. Sometimes you just have to give yourself a little bit of grace and not expect too much. And that goes for everything in life, I suppose. But we can all be super hard on ourselves when we create, and we want to put out the best thing all the time, and that is not always necessary. Here comes the big gold blob. Luckily, it was a big area, so it didn't really matter so much, but yeah. I have not figured it out yet how to best use these gold pens. I do love them, but yeah, it's been a struggle. I really do love this light colored background, and I have two more with the same color scheme that I can use to doodle on, but I don't think I'm going to make a long form video out of them, just because the editing process takes forever. And I might make them into shorts, or maybe I'll just put up the finished projects in on my Instagram. I haven't decided yet, so I am so behind with posting on Instagram, and that was one of the things I told myself that I need to get better at. I gained a few more followers on Instagram. So if you're coming from the YouTube space, thank you very much for joining me over there. And I apologize that I haven't been very diligent about posting over there. But it is on my list. I have quite a few things that I need to put on there. So hopefully there will be a little bit more activity on Instagram from me this year. My dotting tools and my acrylic paints are coming out, and that indicates that I am almost finished with this project. I like these dots to embellish the pieces and give it that final touch and that little bit of whimsy. I just use the acrylic paint straight out of the bottle. Don't do anything to it. I have to, it builds up on my dotting tools, and so I have to clean the dotting tool every now and then, as especially with the thin one, the thin tipped one, so that I can really get those tiny dots. And because I had the acrylics out, I used the white to fill in some of those smaller sections of areas, just to give it a little bit more contrast, and that's coming up shortly here. But I could have also just used my white pen, but at this point I had the acrylic paint out, and so I just chose to paint it in rather than draw it in. And also sometimes it's just an afterthought, or maybe I think it needs a little bit more, and then I just work with what I have on hand at the time. Not that I'm very good about putting my stuff away. Like, if you saw my work surface, you would be over here saying, "It's time to clean up, lady. What are you doing?" But yeah, I have a lot of projects going on all at once, and that's a good thing. Oh, speaking of projects, I wanted to know, do you want me to make a video of all the things that I have painted last year? I saw somebody do that, and it was really nice to see all of their art and the stuff that didn't make it into videos, that they did in the background because, you know, I don't just paint for the videos, I do all kinds of things in the background. So if you are interested in that, let me know. I don't know if these videos, you know, are something that people like to see, or if it's totally gonna tank. I shouldn't care, but you know, if I put all that effort into making a video, I would like for it to do well. But I would appreciate your feedback, and maybe I will make a post in the community, on the community page, and ask there too. So yeah, I have a lot. I have a lot of stuff that I worked on this past year. I've been busy, and yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm running out of space on my desks. And yes, I have 2 desks, and they're all filled with stuff. But thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, don't forget to give it a like. You can share it, you can save it, you can, you know, put it into a folder for future reference if there's something in here that you enjoyed watching. I do that a lot with videos that I watch, and I watch a lot. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that before you leave this page here. I will have a button at the end of this video where you can click and then hit the subscribe button on my page. Thank you again, and I will see you next week. And I might have 2 videos next week, but no promises. But I will definitely be back next weekend. Take care.